What is up, guys? We are live here with Pro Play Games and coming at you with Jiren today. I don't think we've ever had a Jiren tech profile on the channel. I think Peter might have done it, he might have not, but Jiren from Tournament of Power. They got some brand new toys in Colossal Warfare. Figured we'd revisit the option. Really cool deck for locals. Don't know exactly how it would compete on the regional scene, but something that's definitely something solid, especially with the new pieces that it's got and some tools that actually have shaped up to be better now in this meta than it was in the last meta. So Jiren, for those of you guys who have not been up to tune, this card is one of those leaders that when it attacks the leader card, it draws a card, and no matter what, and then it does have to attack the leader card, and then when your life is at 4 or less, instead of drawing 2 and awakening, you actually draw you actually untap 2 energy. So this is actually my favorite type of leader, the whole being able to draw an attack no matter what, and then being able to restand energy is really cool. It lets you set up for explosive turns, and it also keeps your advantage from the early game. So really cool leader. Then backside, Jiren the Ultimate Warrior. Same thing, when it attacks, draw a card. It does gain the ability during the end of your turn, choose up to 2 Universe 11s in your battle area and switch them to active mode. So really cool, because the main purpose of this deck in particular is to keep as many Universe 11 battle cards on board so that you can actually land your win condition. So we're gonna look at the deck now. Alright guys, so for the deck we decided to we're gonna start with the 1-drops first. We were playing 4 Youthful Boma. Now Youthful Boma is just a 1-drop yellow card. It does allow you to just dig for the cards that you really want to see, like that Jiren, that powerful Jiren, or more Universe 11 cards. It's also one of the few cards that you can actually play and then combo with, just in case you need to get yourself out of a rough spot. This is one of your few line of defense in this deck, because you usually don't want to combo off with other 1-drops in your deck, like these that we do also play. We do play 4 heroic combination Tupper. Now Tupper is just one of those normal cards where you go and you look at the top 3 and you add something from that specific trait, and this specific trait is Universe 11. So look at the top 3, add a Universe 11 to your hand. He is a 1-drop that replaces himself, but regardless, you don't want to get rid of him prematurely. You want to keep him on board as long as possible. That way you can land your win con in Jiren. Then we got Ox King. This is one of the brand new toys that this deck got in Colossal Warfare. Ox King, Dad at Heart, permanent all other yellow battle cards in your battle area with an energy cost of 3 or less gain barrier. So very powerful card, very reminiscent of the Vegeta Ape, that the Ape deck was very powerful because of having straight access to him. And you know, it's not as strong. It's something that's accessible much earlier than the King Vegeta Ape, but it's still something that is, even though it's not as strong, it does give everything barrier but himself. So if you do have 2 copies, you will have barrier on everything. But very powerful, because the main focus of this deck is having your Universe 11 cards active. And the reason why it wasn't very relevant before is because Kale was running around and Massane was running around, and now you're seeing a lot less play in those cards. So that, for one, makes this deck a lot more competitive, and then this card will be able to protect your deck from spot removal now that people aren't playing as many cards that destroy multiple cards at the same time. It's not as relevant. This won't be as powerful as it was, you know, if we had it when those cards were running around, but it's still powerful because it gives you guys barrier. Next card that we play, this is one of the Universe 11 cards, and something that I think got a lot better now is Hero Combination Zoré. Now this card in particular is very powerful because it is a blocker, and not only is it a blocker, it's an indestructible blocker for at least 1 attack. As long as you control another Universe 11, then he will be able to withstand any attack. So even if your opponent attacks you with a triple flash at 40k or 50k, you can throw this this little bug in front of it and block it safely without you losing a battle card. And if your opponent really cares about killing this card, then they're gonna have to dedicate another swing. So this can potentially be 2 free diversions from your life. So very powerful card now that blockers are being more relevant than ever, especially against U7 Frieza also. That's another card that can, you know, potentially keep you alive in order to drop your own win condition. And it's something that's usually going to be on board because, you know, even when it would be KO'd, it's not. So you can play your Frieza or your Jiren a lot easier. And then we have another bad boy that the new tournament, I believe that, yeah, it's Tournament Pack 4, I believe, got you this card. So Infinite Awareness Dispo. You can get these tournament packs from playing at your local store. This is the new wave. So Tournament Pack 4, you have, I believe 8 new promos, I think, and this is one of them. This is the only one that I think Yellow got, and showing some love to Universe 11, which I love. He does have the trait of Universe 11 as well down here, so great. We are playing this instead of the other Dispo. Didn't really like the other's Dispo too much. Summoning itself is great, but this is a 2-drop and it's another blocker for the deck. So not only do you have access to Zorre, now you have access to another Universe 11 blocker, and this one restands itself. So you can actually go aggressive on your opponent with a 20k body, which is pretty significant for a 2-drop in Dispo here, as long as you control 4 or more Universe 11s in your drop area. So not being able to play Overwhelm in this deck seems like it might be a theme going forward. It does play off the creatures on board and in the drop area. So Dispo, very good addition to this deck, being a blocker and something that's aggressive and something that's early too. You need something that's 2-drop, 1-drop in order to keep a deck relevant. So that was a really good pick by Bandai, making that a promo going forward for hopefully the potential competitiveness of this deck. So next is going to be Hero Combination Kunchi. Now, this one is from Tournament Power as well, so we've had this. Really interesting part about this card is that your leader doesn't have to be Universe 11, so a lot of people play this no matter what. You can just pin yourself even if you don't have any Universe 11 cards out on the field, but obviously best in a Universe 11 deck because it does get the extra ability of being able to tap down any of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost 4 or less and switching it to rest mode. So really powerful, very good, because most players will keep you at 5 energy or 5 life. If you play this and you go to 4, you can untap the 2 energy that you used to play him, and he's essentially free. He was able to awaken you, and you were able to draw a card now with your leader, and you netted a card with his ability from your life to your hand. So really good card, something that's very powerful, much needed in this deck, and unfortunately he doesn't do too much after he's there, but you just want to keep him on board for our name. For the next card, now we're getting to the 3-drops. This is something that you only have 1 card in the 3-drop spot and then 1 card in the 4-drop spot. We got the Secret Vitality Jiren. Now this card is pretty good at being able to defend your life. Has to come into play auto ability of if your leader's Universe 11. So this is the only way that you can actually play this card. You can place 1 yellow card from your hand to the drop area. So it doesn't have to be a Universe 11, it just has to be a yellow card. And if you do so, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and KO them. So it doesn't have a restriction at all as far as like their energy costs or power or anything like that. It's just something that will immediately come in and deal with 2 threats. So really powerful in Jiren at the 3-drop spot. Being able to just keep you a little bit alive, and it does have a 15k body, so you can go in there with it. But in this deck, you're normally not going to swing unless you're awakened, and if you're awakened, you're fine because Jiren can then restand your creatures. So it's really cool to have cards like Dispo that inherently untap themselves, because then you can actually attack with like Kunchi and Tupper if you really need to, in order to untap them with Jiren's ability. So you can untap essentially 3 cards per turn. Next one is a big one. This is like the main reason why you're like Jiren leader for the most part, because otherwise you can play like a totally different leader and just like not play this Jiren, which you'll be fine without, and then not play Topo. But Topo's essentially the main reason why you are Jiren. When you play this card, if your leader is Universe 11, look at the top 10 cards from your deck and choose 2 Universe 11s with energy costs 3 or less from among them and play them in rest mode. So essentially your whole deck. We don't play Hand Strike Colossal. We don't play anything else that really can't get hit by him, of course, other than Jiren, the big Jiren. But very powerful because those 2 cards will then be switched to active mode during the end step. because of your leader's ability. So Topo is going to actually be able to bring out 2 guys. Sure, they're not of use that immediate, you know, time that they come out, unless you hit a Jiren. If you hit like a 3-drop Jiren, then you can actually use the ability and then destroy 2 rested monsters, 2 rested creatures, or a Kunshi or things like that, or Tupper or something. Like, it's still useful if you hit those type of cards, but if you hit like say a Zoray or a Dispo, then they can actually just they'll be able to untap during the end step, and then you'll be fine. So Topo, very, very powerful card at a 4-drop spot, which is a lot of energy, especially for a deck that does not accelerate. So that's why that's the only thing that we want to be doing on 4 and nothing else, like the hand strike. Next is the main win con of the entire deck. This is the whole reason why we're even looking at the deck at all. Like, why are we playing Universe 11? No idea, except for this card right here. Now, Absolute Justice Jiren, very powerful card. One of the few cards in the entire game that have quadruple strike, so can actually eliminate 4 of your opponent's life in one single swing. Reduce the energy cost of this card for 1 for each Universe 11 in your battle area. So you can see why it's so important to keep Universe 11 cards out on the field. Yeah, you want to be able to untap with your leader's ability. Sure, you want to be able to activate some of your Universe 11 cards like Zoray that require you to control another Universe 11, or, you know, Kunshi. But the main reason is to lay down this bad boy as early as turn 5, guys, because remember, even though it does reduce the energy cost by 1 for each Universe 11 in your battle area, that you still have to pay the specified cost here. So the specified cost on this particular card is 5. So you need 5 yellow energy no matter what, no matter how many Universe 11, even if you have 10 Universe 11 guys on board somehow, you still need to pay 5 energy for him. So this is the cheapest that he's going to be. There is another Jiren from set 4 that the main reason why we're not playing him is because he's actually based around how many Universe 11 you have in your drop area. And because the leader, I feel like, is inherently based, and a lot of the creatures are inherently based on having Universe 11s on the board, I felt like it was a little bit counterintuitive. So we went with Absolute Justice Jiren. Even though the other one might be a little bit more powerful, this plays a little bit better towards the deck. And I've tried a 2-2 split, I've tried a 3-1 split. I think just being able to have absolute access to this one exactly when you need it on turn 5 on curve is the most powerful thing that you can do. So I didn't even talk about this card's auto, and that's, you know, one of the biggest wow factors on a card when you read it. Not only does it have 35 base attack, but it also has an auto. When you play this card, choose all your opponent's battle cards and energy in rest mode and place them in the drop area. So that is ridiculous. Like, that is one of the most ridiculous effects. It can leave your opponent starting off back at turn 1, turn 2. It's just super, super powerful and overwhelming to the point where you can just play it and pass. You don't even have to attack and give your opponent the 4 cards, but obviously you do, especially if you have a bunch of Universe 11 cards out on the field, which you should have once you play this card. But it's very, very powerful. One of the most, you know, bomb-like cards in the entire game, and that's the whole reason why we play, while we're playing Universe 11 to start with. So Jiren, very, very powerful in that. So that's the whole Universe 11 lineup. Everything after this is just complementary cards, cards that help keep you alive, cards to help combat the meta, whatever the case is. These are the additional support cards that you're going to want to play in this deck. First off in the support system is Crusher Ball. I think Crusher Ball is very good in this format because people are trying to play, you know, Scientist Fu and try to kill you with it. Like, there's a lot of aggro decks where just like, you know, they're trying to overwhelm and play a 25 double striker, and by you Crusher Balling them, it could be the end of their entire turn usually. So it's something that's going to buy you a turn, something that's going to make their big bomb come into play tapped. It does not affect cards with deflect. That's the only downside, so it won't be able to touch Triple Flash Goku. But usually those cards that need to EX evolve, they'll EX evolve in whatever position the card before it was. So if they play a Determined Sun Goku, you can actually Crusher Ball it, and then they'll shut off the whole Triple Flash play. You just got to be able to, you know, use some intuition and be able to predict that your opponent's going to make that play. So Crusher Ball is still an excellent card, and that's why it's at 2 instead of 4, because deflect is an actual thing. Then we have one of the this is like one of the themed themed negates in the whole, or themed cards in the deck as well. This is their themed negate. Counterattack, negate the attack. If your leader is Universe 11, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and switch it to rest mode. So, very powerful card, especially if your opponent's playing their battle cards on board and then swinging with something else. Like for example, they want to hit you with a crit guy instead and leave back their double striker. You can go ahead and negate the crit dude and then tap their double striker. So this card can be huge. I know this card is huge in draft because it almost always gets in there. And standard is still very, very powerful, but you can never have enough negates. So we're playing another negate on top of that themed one. We're playing 4 Flying Nimbus. Now the 4 Flying Nimbus are going to be able to help you against decks just like those aggro decks that we were talking about, where they get like maybe 3, 4, 5 attacks in. Flying Nimbus is just another sense of security and insurance to make sure that you do live throughout the turn in order to place down that powerful Jiren and kill your opponent. Also, your whole deck is pretty much yellow. There is not a single non-yellow card in this whole deck because Overwhelm cannot be played in this deck because of Dispo. And if you play the other Jiren, you can't play Overwhelm. Finally, of course, the super combo, the themed super combo in the entire deck. The reason why this one's so powerful is because simply it's a name. It's a Universe 11, so you can actually search it with your tupper right here. So very, very powerful card. It's a super combo. The good thing about these super combos in Tournament of Power, all of them pretty much say that you can super combo at 5 or less life instead of 4 or less. So that's something super relevant, and one of the main reasons why you want to be, you know, themed, because not only do you have much more instant access to this card, also a really cool thing that you can do with this deck is you can actually topo into her. She'll come in tapped, and then during your end step, you know, it'll be unrested, and then you have a super combo ready to go for your opponent. And if you have Ox King out, then it has barrier. So really cool access, a really cool play that you can do with this deck. But really interesting deck, like I said, guys. It's a really good theory, a really good deck that you can actually use against a lot of the decks in the meta. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that ramp that a lot of those top tier decks you see play, but it is something that we tried to focus as little as possible on. I mean, we wanted to focus on a lot of 1-drops and not have too many high level cards in the deck, except for something like Jiren. I think this is the most competitive version of this deck right now. Through play testing, it was something that didn't get completely blown out like it would be before because of Kale, because of Mass Aim, because of these decks. Now that it's shifting to more of an aggro format, I think if you live with blockers like these and being able to, you know, play extra types of negates and interactions with your opponent, it definitely has something that has a shot. So thank you guys again for watching the deck profile. Like, comment, subscribe. Anything that you guys want to see, let us know. We'll be pumping out deck profiles for the rest of the week. Thank you guys again for watching. Till next time, stay pro.